This podcast is protected under the laws of the United States and other countries. Unauthorized duplication, distribution, or exhibition may result in civil liability, criminal prosecution, and the wrath of the tall man.
Boy! Hey, let's talk about you, the ID10T community events at ID10T.com, like Russ Stevens, a.k.a.
Cat Bus Russ,
who has started a podcast called 90 for Chill, which Russ says is dedicated to movies with a runtime between 74 and 99 minutes, the time frame that I feel is ideal. Russ, I could not agree with you more. That is a fantastic idea. Russ goes on to say there are times when you need a cinematic fix but don't have time for the latest Scorsese masterpiece or offering from a comic book universe. There's also times when you need a conclusion to prevent a binge costing you a whole night. My guest and I try to follow these guidelines as we chat up features that are definitely worth your time and are beyond easy to make time for. 90 for Chill, the podcast, can be found on all major podcast platforms at 94chill.com, and that's spelling out 90, Ninety, 4 FOR chill. So there you go. Thank you so much for sharing, Russ. Really great idea for a podcast. Events at ID10T.com for everyone else.
Hello there. After a 10-hour workday, it's about 11 p.m. when I finally get around to finalizing my podcast and uploading it to the internet. So I definitely need a lot of energy, but I don't need all that caffeine, so I rely on Dubby Jitterless Energy Blend. It's a coffee fruit extract, so you get about as much caffeine as a cup of coffee, but you get all the vitamins you could possibly wish for and all the energy, and about half the price. If you spend $4 a shift on energy drinks, you're spending $80 on sugar per month. Why don't you cut that in half and try Dubby Energy Blend? And if you go and visit Dubby.gg and use the promo code CatBusRuss at checkout, you're going to save yourself 10%. So on top of spending half the money, you can at least go and get one over on the tax man. So that's Dubby.gg, promo code CatBusRuss, and start feeling energized today.
Dungeons and Dragons, wizards and witches, magic and revenge, and a warrior caught between. The Sword and the Sorcerer. Rated R.
And to close a week of watching Sword and Sandals movies out, I decided to go to the genesis of one of my favorite underappreciated directors, Albert Pyun, with The Sword and the Sorcerer, which I believe is a film that actually beat Conan the Barbarian out to cinemas in 1982 and, had its moment. And I'm kind of surprised that with all this behind it, that Pyun didn't really advance further than canon films. The story is about the last heir to a kingdom that was devastated by Richard Lynch, who acquired the powers of a sorcerer to assist him, played by Richard Mole. And after a decade away, he's found himself back in his kingdom, ready to help the rebellion, or I should say convinced to help the rebellion by a princess with the promise of one night with her if he succeeds. So this story I think could have probably been a little better continuity-wise. There's just and they're going to go to the rescue, and then they're in jail, and it's well, geez, there was probably a cool scene that got cut, I guess, is what the answer is there. And some characters you think might have been killed don't end up being killed. So little sloppy continuity errors, but otherwise it's probably, I think, the most competently directed Albert Pyun film. The score's good. The violence has its graphic moments while not being too over the top. The action itself is pretty over the top. A one-man army, essentially, who just keeps getting his swords broken by Richard Lynch. So it's a nice power to have. And, you get your occasional bare set of tits out there. Well, I guess, the occasional harem run through and some fun action in those sequences. There's really not much to complain about besides the continuity errors. I think the acting is competent enough. The characters interesting enough. And as I say, I'm just impressed that Pune was able to make something look like it's on the level of a major distributor opposed to the small labels that he did work for. I think, if anything, this kind of gave a little influence to Conan the Destroyer, which is my Conan movie with the wizard. And that one probably actually is the better film or better executed film. But I really would have wished that Pune would have been given more to do, but director for hire, and I guess he just didn't recognize his value after The Sword and the Sorcerer.
And now, a feature presentation. Oh, very well. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Get ourselves some snacks.
You do not have to be like me, because I know that everybody's social media feed is bombarded with ads for the new guilt-free snack. But you're scrolling on social media, so you're curious about a lot of things. And fortunately for me, I have a pretty high batting average when it comes to trying stuff from online sources. One of those hits was Deutsch Snacking Dough. It's cookie dough you can eat raw, you can bake into cookies in under 10 minutes, and it just fills you up in a few scoops. I like to eat a pound, maybe 2 pounds of chicken wing in a sitting, and still there's the urge to go for that third pound. But with Deutsch Snacking Dough, you take a couple scoops, and it just settles me down, and I feel full. Free of the top 8 allergens, they're gluten-free, low sugar, and have 3 times the protein of any other dough out there. And it's plant-based. And as I say, I can eat 3 pounds of wings in a sitting if I feel like it. I am a carnivore. Needless to say, I was skeptical about plant-based snacking dough, but my skepticism was proven wrong. So if you go down to the link in the description of this podcast, it will take you to my portal, and you will get 20% off of your order. So find your new snack today, Deutsch Snacking Dough.
Little Hand says it's time to rock and roll.
Bring the noise.
Thank you for checking out I Dig Crazy Flicks with Cat Bus Russ. I am your host, Cat Bus Russ, and yes, I've just gotten back from... I got back Sunday, even did a little time traveling thanks to the time zones. It's really weird that how Indiana does recognize daylight and doesn't recognize daylight saving time. So, yeah, you get an hour coming back. So, again, essentially time travel per the Simon Pegg, Nick Frost, Seth Rogen movie, Paul. It's so it was a pretty successful trip. I'm out of my die cut buttons die cut stickers out of my buttons. I've still got a few. I've still saved 5 from each batch just for mix things up, but definitely don't have anything of the I Dig Crazy Flicks buttons, which I think were more over than the old Indianapolis 500 themed buttons that I had last year. So, might roll with that. Looking towards Planet Funk. So far, communication's been great with them. And then I'm kind of really have to figure out the con scene with a possible full-time job coming up. So... yeah, things are really... So, come back from a great con and then have that job offer come along. So, it's your typical 3 months, you can't do anything deal. But who knows? November is looking pretty wide open, I would say, for panels I can do. And heck, I might be able to take the big sis up to TARDIS, since, you can't really expect me to work Black Friday. At least my retail gig. So, yeah, things are pretty positive right now, mood-wise. The only thing you can really complain about Indiana Comic Convention, ICC, is that they... couldn't get Nick Cage to do a panel, And truthfully, I don't think I've been in the Wabash Ballroom where they have the big celebrity panels. They just don't seem to get them organized enough. I think maybe when I was in Indiana last year, I checked out Sean Gunn. But that's about the extent of it. So, Nick Cage not doing a panel is kind of disappointing in my opinion. And who knows, though, where disappointment's going to go, because I should be able to at least make a couple days of Fan Expo Chicago, and they just announced Kurt Russell. So I think that's the big star my sister was wondering about. And the Poetic Critic. She was, because I guess he rarely does cons, so yeah, if I could, get a Jack Burton Funko Pop sign, oh man, that'd be worth the trip. But we will see how things play out. So as I say, right now, Planet Funk in a couple of weeks looks promising, and we'll go from there. As for Sunday at the convention, again, very successful. First panel I checked out was a currency in the Star Wars galaxy, which was a fun little exercise. Got a chance to talk to the presenter, Nitin Barrage. Sorry if I've mispronounced that. Since we had a good conversation, I kind of dropped, hey, I've done panels with Holly and Brian, the full of Sith people. So yeah, he was just saying he's on a mission to document every possible transaction made in the Star Wars universe, and just great. This is a great way to introduce macroeconomics, really. Or at least I would make that my first class at DePaul. I mean, the first lesson of the semester at DePaul. So yeah, and it was fun having he had a little kid running around giving away prizes if you answered questions. So it's kind of difficult for me. Like, I could answer everything, but yeah, it's can't really do that. I did ask, and I think he had fun with my comments, like, "Hey, the little kids wandering around giving the toys out. Can I attach my Apple Watch to him?" For some reason, my Apple Watch was not recognizing my steps that day, so I know I got the exercise in, and I know I don't want to buy a new Apple Watch. So I basically only bought an Apple Watch because I was so fed up of trying to figure out how to get people to properly disconnect them, reset them when they were doing trade-ins at my retailer. So, I really still wish I could have got an Apple Watch 7 with the blue case, but, things are what they are. I ended up getting an 8 that was better. Like, I was just trying to capitalize on 7's going out, so. So that was a fun panel, and then I got to... I did go and bring it up to Nitin that... where's the communism going to be addressed in Star Wars? There has to be some planet that's practicing it. I mean, it just can't be the Jack Black... Lizzo world with Christopher Lloyd from the 3rd season of The Mandalorian. That was probably... I thought it was fun. I know everybody probably who acted in it probably was having a good time. But yeah, that's the most TV episode of The Mandalorian. So, but it's nice to get all the old droids from the Trade Federation and the Confederacy, I guess. It's really, really weird to call it the Confederacy when, like, hey, they may have been the guys in the right, despite, total manipulation. So, hopefully I'll get to talk to him at some point for my podcast. He does also do comics on his own. So he's definitely worth looking up. I had a link to his page at DePaul. So from there, I went over to the 40 years. I'm sorry, skipping the most fun, or I don't know if I'd say the most fun. It's a panel about cats, so yes, I was digging it. But the presenter, Zach Davison, man who is just a student of he spent 12 years in Japan, so it's kind of fun. Like, he first saw my sign in the crowd saying Chuck Norris was a Sith Lord, and he just went off and said, "I don't get what was so good about Chuck Norris." And I said, "Hey, I'm with you there." The best thing going for it was the Walker Texas Ranger, and that's when the culture shock came in. Like, I didn't watch any American TV for 12 years, so I didn't get it. Oh, man. So, and then when he was doing his panel, it's like somebody wanted to ask the question, and it's like, nope, I'm going right through. Well, he's an NYU instructor. He writes a lot of manga and answers, educational in a sense that it brings up cats and such, but we get to go through the entire history of cats in Japan, an invasive species if they were, and how cats aren't really indoor pets. They just wander Japan, and people think they're cute, and they take care of rats. So people feed them and treat them like the royalty that they are. So, there's cat islands where you get that were dedicated, were once silk worm farms, and they brought the cats there to just take care of the rats. And once the silk business went under, the islands were abandoned only to the cats. And you get fun stories about cats who just invade any kind of abandoned space. But it's the Japanese culture. It's kind of like, well, it's not really abandoned space. So you get to hear stories of, train station masters. Because in Japan, like, you go and to get a ticket for a train, they don't have anybody there. You just put your cash in one basket, and you get the ticket out of the other basket. So kind of like in Clerks, the the surveillance through paranoia concept. So we get to hear about all the kitty things, like it was all about how cats are magical. So you get to, and so Zach Davidson, if I'm correct, I'm just trying to pull up. Yep, Zach Davison. So writer, translator, lecturer. So it ends with the Gotoneko, who is just the Goto Koneko, which just likes to relax, play with, keep warm, play with a lot of fire. And before that, you have the Kasha, which are the kind of the demon. Well, they're literally a burning cat. And the Nekomata, which is the inspiration for cat girls. The idea that these cats transform into, can shapeshift. And it's fun to. And the Bakaneko. Bakaneko, I should say that. Bakaneko would be a stupid cat. Which is just, basically, like, cats get old and they become magical with their age. Or if they throw themselves a little tea cozy on their head, suddenly they're magical. So it was very educational. My issue was that he wasn't interacting with the crowd once the panel started. And I think we're kind of there for that. We want to be a part. We want to celebrate the nerdom too. And, that's why I don't like doing the TED Talks, because, no, I want to hear from you. Like, so that panel was the Kaibyo, the Supernatural Cats Japan, and then basically my day was I hit this floor, Artist Alley primarily, before I went to my first panel at noon. Bought some comics from, I'd say, the cooler vendors, some stickers from other ones, and apologized to to Aaron Reynolds for bad mouthing Nano Shark, and he had his booth next to Land Pitt, who we really kind of he was from Atlanta, and I had my Atlanta United FC secondary kit from the 2025 season, and I told him, I got it back when I was at ATL Comic Convention, so hopefully that'll be back. So yeah, it was nice and by the end of the day, I did go and finally capture all the hot sauces. I got Allie some badges for taking care of Ava the Queen Kitty. Nothing too offensive, despite I'm more than happy to give her the effing birds badges that I bought from Aaron. So, yes, that's the floor. Catching up on my hot sauces. Bob's was there. I first saw them in Atlanta. I think I may have seen them in other things, but the guy who really gets around is Gwindo's. He's out of Carroll Stream, Illinois, and I've seen him all the way down in New Orleans, and I think he was in Springfield for Missouri Comic Con. So it gets around, and as I say, it was nice to see that so many of the vendors were at the Quad Cities Comic Con. So good start for Quad Cities Comic Con. Hopefully I'll be back next year, and they had so few panelists, I'm sure they'll throw me a bone. We'll find out. They also run the Peoria, Illinois Comic Con, which is going to be in Peoria. So, I guess it's kind of like Missouri Comic Con. Well, Missouri State University is in Springfield. Illinois Comic Con in Peoria, it's like, I'm sorry, U of I is in Champaign-Urbana, and Illinois State is in Bloomington. Now, granted, aside from the iHotel Illinois Conference Center, which really isn't meant to hold that kind of event. I mean, the Civic Center is the best place to be. I don't think you can do it at the Interstate Center in Bloomington. I don't know anywhere else in Champaign-Urbana. That's another time. So, back to my day. So, after that panel, I was going to the James Cameron Aliens at 40 panel. And the only person who was there, and I definitely have to go and get his information, was Chris Martinez from the Big Dumb Monsters podcast. Traded a bunch of buttons and stickers with each other. He was there were supposed to be two other people. None of them really showed up. There was no set moderator, and I just went and volunteered. So I got to do the Aliens 40-year panel, and I don't really know what the audience was expecting, because maybe there was more important stuff to do. As I say, I'm not there for the celebrity. Definitely not there for $215 Nicolas Cage autograph. I say that as in, like, after about the intro, people started there was probably two groups that checked out. And again, flying off the seat of our pants, so I don't really hold it against them. And it was basically an interesting talking about, where they can take aliens, where they should take aliens. And we did get into the argument with the audience about whether or not Alien is better than Aliens. And I basically said, Alien might be the better movie. And it's kind of coincidental that I think the best James Cameron movie is the first Terminator, which is a horror movie. Alien, a horror movie. Aliens, action movie. And then Terminator 2, action movie. And, I get to speak on, how sequels operate, how to do it right, in my opinion. Either go bigger or you go and take the piss out of the idea. So, so at least the people who stuck around, they were Alien fans. So you can't really ask for a better audience by the end of it. Thanks, Chris, for letting me come and, at least in my opinion, save the day, or at least make things easier on you. Because that is something about panels. Like, it goes back to when I was doing the brick panel at ATL Comic Convention. That panel is at least pitched by Tim White, I believe was the name. I'm sorry, I have not seen you at any other cons, man. So, let me... Okay. I'm sorry, his Instagram handle is Right Guy Tim Avers. So, we didn't get anybody till the end of that panel, so it just means how underappreciated Brick is. Ryan Johnson's debut feature, I'm not going to say it's his best, but it's, I would probably rank him, I'd say it's better than Looper. And I really do dig Looper, so, I would probably go maybe the first Knives Out. I have not seen, the third one yet. Knives Out might end up being his best movie, but that's, full capacities. Last Jedi, classic. And, Britt, I don't think there's a bad Ryan Johnson movie yet, and he's always got an interesting take on whatever premise he's going for. So, from the Aliens panel, I should say. I don't need the Fan Expo NOLA app. I ended up checking out the last panel of the day for me, which was You Have Died of Dysentery and Other Inaccurate History Lessons from Video Games. Again, from the crew with the Ray Bradbury Center. So Kyle Atkins, Christopher Atkins, they were at the first, I wouldn't say the first panel with them. They were at the Fembots panel on Friday, and they were joined by Michael Krennic. And, honestly, just more of a love of Greek mythology games in a sense. So, I don't know, but they brought up facts that, like, now you can go to history museums and they try to incorporate games and everything. And I don't know if I'm really down with that in a sense. Because, you can immediately die of cholera. And, yeah, that's a kick in the teeth to kids trying to enjoy themselves. Maybe a few kicks in the teeth wouldn't be a bad thing, but, I can't abdicate that. So, tough love, basically. And, hot sauce and badges, and got on the road. Gas was down to about 3:35 when I decided to fill up. There were some spots in Indianapolis that had it below 3:30, so and then you cross the border and it's $1 higher, probably $1.10 higher, honestly. So, and that's just Champaign, Urbana. I know it's pricier even back home in Peoria. So, hopefully I won't have to pay for my own admission next year. I'll probably try applying for press passes. I'll bring it up to Ryan Call, the event organizer, or at least the scheduler, that, hey, I was pulled up to do stuff. I am a good panelist. Thank you, Darby Harn, for standing up for me there. And, but as I say, I couldn't have asked for a more productive trip. Yes, I could have been on more panels, Ryan. But, I was able to find ways to, put myself out there. Lots of stickers, buttons given out. And I'm looking at my YouTube numbers on certain things. Again, it's really, I'm not a big fan of YouTube. Big fan of Google in general. You can go and try searching on google.com to determine that. But YouTube, I just find it weird that people use YouTube to, as a... Well, I just find it weird that we're doing visual podcast, I suppose. I don't know. I gotta find a gimmick, I suppose. Get goofy. Play a character. It was interesting when I'm in the hotel watching Netflix, and then, I see, we have podcast on there. And, yeah, we're in the studio with Bill Simmons and Chris Ryan on the Rewatchables. It's like, yeah, but, I kind of do this while I drive, I suppose. And, if I'm not watching TV at home, I have the TV off, so I can't actually go and just because I gotta do my podcast. So, yeah, I don't get the video podcast format yet, but maybe down the road, who knows? But I don't really have too much more to say. It was a good day for me today. Even I went and recorded a podcast, and that should be out next week. And, fortunately, regardless of the job situation, I've got stuff banked. The only issue is trying to figure out how to get it moved from my phone on, big old WAV files moved onto my laptop to go and do to produce those panels. So that's my biggest problem right now. I'm doing pretty well. And I'd like to thank my friend Kelly. She did a lot to try, pitching ideas on how to get myself out there pushing, and I really think it worked out. And I think may not have played by all of her rules, but I did. Can't argue with the results, and I'm glad that she was doing a little more to push me into give me the right attitude, I think is the best way of putting it. So thanks, Kelly. And we are I think we can go and wrap things up. So if you want to help the podcast out, best way to do it, well, yeah, I guess it is technically the best way to do it. Rate and subscribe on your favorite podcast apps, 5 stars preferably. Be as honest as you'd like in the comments. I can take that passive-aggressive nature, so I'm all for it. That's what the internet's all about. A little bit of... Well, I'm a satirist, so I guess... That's how I justify my passive-aggressive behavior. You can join the I Did Crazy Flicks Patreon. I still have stickers, so don't worry. But there you'll, patreon.com/I Did Crazy Flicks, you will get ad-free podcast. You'll get access to the original 90forchill.com, the podcast feed. As I say, you got some goodies, a waterproof sticker, fridge magnet, great ways I'm trying to spread the word at your workplace, in my opinion. And you get a shout out as long as you're subscribed. So thank you, The Scoop Staley. I will get around to watching the May 2nd AEW Collision from Peoria to see it on TV with Nigel and Tony. Thank you, Dad, for helping The Scoop out there. And thanks, Tim Bates. You can find him on episodes about the 1989 Bloodsport in Space Arena and 1988 horror comedy classic Night of the Demons. Poetic Critic approved Night of the Demons. But the best way to help the podcast out, well, I feel the best way to help the podcast out is come on the show, be a guest. Offer me a film, a director, an actor, a theme, as long as it's off the walls, out of touch with reality. I will give you the time. If it is a little more down to earth, like a Richard Linklater movie, I'll give you a Before Sunrise trilogy entry, I will not give you Boyhood. So, thanks for checking out I Did Crazy Flicks, and thank you, Station Marie Harden, for keeping an eye on me, keeping me out of too much trouble, being my inspiration. I hope you're doing the same for everybody else you touch in your life, and I hope you're squeezing a lot of ectoplasm out of Skimbleshanks. It's fun to just squeeze until he squeaks. He's a talkative little guy, so great company in the afterlife, I suppose. So, thanks again for listening to I Did Crazy Flicks, and I'll be back next week.
Can I hear a wahoo?
This podcast was made possible by the love and support of Dave and Cindy Stevens, Rory Stevens and Allison Higgins, Danny Daniels, and Stephanie Smith.
Long live Flash! You've saved your Earth. Have a nice day.